It was just another quiet afternoon at the small bakery on the corner of Maple Street. Emily, a young woman in her early 20s, moved efficiently behind the counter, her uniform slightly wrinkled from a long shift. She was a waitress, just trying to make ends meet, her days filled with the hum of ovens and the scent of freshly baked bread. Today, she was serving the last piece of the bakery's famous chocolate cake, a rare treat that brought a smile to her face as she carefully placed it on a small plate, ready to serve her next customer. As she reached out to take the last piece, the door to the bakery swung open with a loud chime. In strode a figure who seemed to command the room without even trying, a tall, imposing man dressed sharply in a tailored suit, a shadow of authority and danger surrounding him. He was known around town as Vincent Moretti, the head of a powerful crime syndicate. Rumors painted him as ruthless, feared by many, yet he carried himself with a calm confidence that was almost regal. Emily, caught off guard by his sudden appearance, didn't notice her hand trembling slightly as she reached for the cake. When she turned around to serve him, her elbow nudged a cup of coffee off the counter. Time seemed to slow as the hot liquid spilled across her hands and splashed onto his expensive jacket. Her eyes widened in horror, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry," she stammered, quickly grabbing napkins to clean up the mess. Vincent's gaze, cold and unreadable, locked onto hers. But to her surprise, he simply reached out a hand, stopping her. "Save it for me," he said softly, a strange hint of amusement flickering in his eyes. Emily blinked, unsure if she'd heard right. Was this man joking? Or was there something more beneath his intimidating exterior? Their encounter was brief but unforgettable. She hastily finished cleaning the coffee and stepped back, her heart pounding in her chest. Vincent turned and left without another word, leaving her to wonder about the strange mix of menace and kindness she'd just witnessed. That day, Emily's world felt a little more unpredictable. She couldn't shake the image of the imposing man, nor the strange, almost playful way he'd spoken. Was he really just a mafia boss, or was there a side to him that no one saw? Why had he chosen that moment to speak to her? Was he testing her, or was he simply a man who, like everyone else, had his own hidden story? As she closed up shop that evening, Emily found herself asking, could someone so powerful and feared truly be capable of kindness? Or was there something darker lurking beneath his polished facade? What if their paths crossed again, and this time, the stakes were even higher? If you enjoyed this story or want to see what happens next, please leave a like, subscribe for more stories, and comment below where you're watching from. I love hearing from all of you. It was an ordinary afternoon at the corner bakery, a place where the aroma of freshly baked bread and sweet pastries filled the air. Emily, a young woman in her early 20s, moved quickly behind the counter, balancing trays and greeting customers with a practiced smile. She was a waitress, someone who belonged to this humble world, simple, familiar, and safe. Today, she was serving the last piece of the bakery's renowned chocolate cake, a small treat that made her day a little brighter. Carefully, she placed it on a delicate plate, ready to hand it over to the next customer. As she reached out to lift the cake, the door swung open with a sudden chime, and in strode a man who seemed to belong to a different universe altogether. Tall, impeccably dressed in a dark suit that fit him like a second skin, his presence commanded immediate attention. His features were sharp, eyes cold and assessing, and his expression carried the weight of authority, an unspoken warning that he was used to getting what he wanted. Everyone in town knew of Vincent Moretti, the mafia boss whose name was whispered with a mixture of fear and respect. His reputation was as icy as his stare, someone who played by his own rules, unyielding and dangerous. Emily's pulse quickened as her gaze briefly met his. She instinctively felt a shiver of fear, yet there was also a strange flicker of fascination, an undeniable pull that made her stomach tighten. She wasn't used to this world of power and shadows. She belonged here, in this bakery, among simple routines and familiar faces. Not in the same universe as this man. As he approached the counter, his gaze lingered on her with a cold intensity. Emily's fingers trembled slightly as she reached for the last piece of cake, her mind racing to make sense of the disconnect between their worlds. Without warning, he extended a hand, stopping her motion. His voice was calm, almost silky, but with an unmistakable authority. "Save it for me," he said, his tone leaving no room for doubt. It was a simple command, yet it carried the weight of a warning, an unspoken challenge. Emily's cheeks flushed with embarrassment, and a flicker of indignation. Was he joking? Or was this some kind of strange test? Her heart hammered in her chest as she looked up at him, trying to gauge whether this was a threat or a strange kind of kindness. The way he glanced at her, slow, deliberate, made her realize that this encounter was no coincidence. There was something in his eyes, a hint of curiosity, or perhaps even a hint of something more. A silent promise that, despite the vast difference between their worlds, something was about to change. She felt her pulse quicken, a mixture of fear and fascination swirling inside her. She knew her life was simple, limited by her small world, her modest job, and her quiet routines. But this man, this powerful stranger, seemed to be from a universe far beyond her reach. His coldness and authority contrasted sharply with her humble innocence. Yet, beneath that icy exterior, she sensed an undercurrent of something deeper, a potential for connection, or perhaps conflict. She wondered, with a strange sense of dread and curiosity, what this moment meant. Was this just a fleeting encounter, or the beginning of something darker and more complex? As she stepped back, clutching the plate with trembling hands, she couldn't help but ask herself, could someone so commanding and distant truly feel anything beneath that hardened exterior? Or was this just the start of a dangerous game? Her world was small and predictable, but his was vast, mysterious, and dangerous. And somehow, she knew that whatever was about to unfold between them would change everything. If you're intrigued by their story, please leave a like, subscribe for more tales, and comment below where you're watching from. I love hearing from all of you. The bakery was quiet now, the last customers gone, leaving only the soft hum of the refrigerator and Emily tidying up the counter. She was about to place the final piece of the bakery's famous chocolate cake on a small plate when the door swung open again. In stepped Vincent Moretti, tall, imposing, with a cold stare that immediately shifted the atmosphere. His presence filled the room, a stark contrast to the humble, cozy space. Emily's heart jumped in her chest. She knew of him, everyone did. The mafia boss whose name was whispered in fear and awe. Yet here he was, strolling in as if he owned the place. She hurriedly looked away, feeling the weight of his gaze, but he was already approaching the counter. "Last piece," she said softly, trying to keep her voice steady. He didn't answer immediately, eyes inspecting the cake as if he was measuring her worth in that simple act. Then, with a slow, deliberate gesture, he extended his hand. "Save it for me," he said, voice calm but with an undeniable authority. Emily hesitated, blinking in surprise. I was just about to serve it," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's for the customer," she added, almost defensively. Vincent's eyes flicked to hers, a flicker of something unreadable passing over his face. "The customer is you," he replied, a hint of a smirk touching his lips. "And I don't wait in line." Her cheeks warmed with a mixture of irritation and something else, fascination. How could someone so cold and powerful speak with such quiet confidence? She clenched her fists, trying to hide her trembling hands. "You can't just take what you want," she said, voice rising slightly. "It's not how this works." Vincent leaned in a little, his gaze intense. "You don't know much about how the world works, do you?" he murmured. "Some things are just about taking what's yours, what you deserve." Her jaw tightened. "And what if I say no?" she challenged, though her voice wavered. The air between them grew thick with tension. He studied her face, then let out a slow breath. "Look, I don't want to fight over cake," he said quietly. But I don't like being told no either. Emily stared at him, a strange mixture of fear and curiosity swirling inside her. She felt a strange tug, like an unspoken invitation to learn more about this man whose world was so vastly different from hers. As if sensing her hesitation, Vincent's voice softened just a little, revealing a crack in his armor. You think I'm just some ruthless guy, he said, voice low. But I've got my pain, my own scars buried deep. Things I don't talk about. She blinked, surprised by this glimpse into his vulnerability. Everyone has struggles, she replied softly, looking down at her hands. Even someone like you. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then Vincent's eyes flickered with something unexpected, perhaps regret, or maybe longing. Maybe, he said quietly. But not many are brave enough to see it. Emily felt her heart tighten. For the first time, she saw behind his cold exterior a flicker of pain, of loneliness. And in that moment, something shifted. A connection rooted in shared vulnerability, fragile but real. She hesitated, then reached out, gently placing her hand on the counter. If you want the cake, she whispered, maybe you should earn it. He looked at her, a slow smile forming, more genuine than before. Maybe I will. It was a small moment, an unspoken understanding that something more was beginning to bloom between them, born from pain, guarded truths, and a tender spark of attraction. Their worlds had collided, and neither could ignore the subtle, dangerous pull drawing them closer. If this story has caught your interest, please leave a like, subscribe for more, and comment below where you're watching from. I love hearing from all of you. The bakery had finally quieted down, the last customers gone, leaving Emily alone behind the counter. She was about to place the final piece of the bakery's famed chocolate cake onto a small plate when the door swung open again. In stepped Vincent Moretti, tall, cold, with that air of authority that seemed to silence the room. His presence felt like a shadow stretching across the cozy space, and Emily's heart quickened, a mixture of fear and fascination tightening her chest. Everyone knew who he was, rumors of his ruthless reputation, whispers of the dangerous world he inhabited. Yet here he was, calmly approaching her like he owned the whole place. He paused, eyes scanning the last piece of cake as if weighing a decision. Then, with slow, deliberate movements, he extended his hand. Save it for me, he said softly, voice calm but laced with an undeniable authority. Emily blinked, caught off guard. I was just about to serve that, she managed, trying to keep her voice steady. It's for the customer, she added, feeling her cheeks flush. Vincent's gaze didn't waver. The customer is you, he said, a faint smirk playing on his lips. And I don't wait in line. Her initial spark of irritation flickered into something more complex, an uneasy mix of fear, defiance, and curiosity. The room's atmosphere grew tense. She clenched her fists, her mind racing. This man was dangerous, a figure who belonged to a world she knew nothing about. Yet beneath that icy exterior, she saw something else, an unspoken pain, a vulnerability hidden behind the cold mask. Look, I can't just give you what you want, she said, voice trembling slightly. That's not how this works. His eyes shifted, studying her face, and then he leaned in just a little closer. You don't understand much about how the world really works, Vincent murmured. Sometimes you have to take what's yours, what you deserve. That's life. Emily felt herself straighten, a surge of resolve mixing with her fear. And what if I say no? She challenged, her voice trembling but firm. Vincent paused, the smirk fading into something more serious. Then we're headed for trouble, he said quietly. You see, I don't like being told no either. Especially when I know what I want. Suddenly, the weight of the moment pressed down on her. She realized that this wasn't just about a piece of cake anymore. It was about their worlds colliding, her humble, ordinary life and his dangerous, secret-filled existence. And the risk that came with it. You're not just some ruthless guy, she finally said softly, voice trembling with emotion. You've got your own pain. Your own scars. Vincent's eyes darkened, a flicker of something vulnerable crossing his face. Everyone has their scars, he admitted. Most hide them well. But I can't hide from mine. Or from what I want. For a moment, silence hung heavy. Emily saw the flicker of truth behind his words, an unspoken acknowledgement that beneath his reputation, he was just a man, broken and longing for something real. But the world wouldn't accept this. Not her small, quiet town, not his enemies who would see her as a weakness, and certainly not his family, those who would never understand her. Their connection was dangerous, impossible even. She looked at him, her heart pounding. If you want the cake, she whispered, maybe you should prove you're worth it. Vincent's gaze lingered on her, then slowly, a genuine smile broke through his cold exterior. Maybe I will, he said softly. And in that fragile moment, they both understood that whatever was blooming between them, the attraction, the connection, came with a price. A threat looming over them, bigger than either could face alone. Their worlds were on a collision course, and to be together, they'd have to confront something much darker than their circumstances. Because some secrets, some reputations, and some enemies are impossible to escape, no matter how strong the pull. If you've enjoyed this story or want to see what happens next, please leave a like, subscribe for more, and comment below where you're watching from. I love hearing from all of you. The bakery had fallen silent, save for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the quiet rustle of paper as Emily tidied up the counter. She was about to set the last piece of the bakery's famous chocolate cake on a small plate when the door swung open again. In stepped Vincent Moretti, tall, commanding, with that air of quiet dominance that made the room feel smaller somehow. His eyes immediately locked onto her, an intensity that made her stomach tighten. Everyone in town knew who he was, fearsome, dangerous, a man with a reputation that haunted whispers and rumors. Yet here he was, calmly approaching her as if he belonged to a different world altogether. Emily's heart pounded, a mixture of fear and something more dangerous, fascination. She tried to focus, to keep her hand steady, but her pulse was racing. Vincent reached out, his gaze never leaving her, and with a slow, deliberate motion, he extended his hand. Save it for me, he said softly, voice calm but laced with undeniable authority. Emily blinked, surprised by his words. I was just about to serve that, she managed, her voice trembling slightly. It's for the customer, she added, trying to keep her composure. Vincent's eyes flicked over her, then he smirked, a hint of amusement curling at his lips. The customer is you, he said quietly, almost a whisper. And I don't wait in line. Her cheeks flushed hot, but beneath her embarrassment, a strange thrill coursed through her. Despite the danger she sensed in him, she couldn't ignore the magnetic pull, an undeniable attraction that made her want to stay, to see what would happen next. Vincent took a step closer, and she felt herself instinctively leaning back, yet she didn't pull away. Their eyes met, a silent challenge, a mutual understanding that neither of them could resist the temptation between them. She saw a flicker of something deeper in his gaze, perhaps longing, or regret, or pain he kept buried beneath his cold exterior. She was about to speak when his hand brushed lightly against hers, a gentle yet electrifying touch that sent a shiver down her spine. It was a small gesture, so subtle, yet it spoke volumes. In that moment, she realized how close they had become, how impossible it was to deny the chemistry crackling between them. Despite knowing the risks, the rumors, the enemies, the secrets that could destroy everything, they couldn't help themselves. Their worlds were destined to collide, love against all the rules. Vincent's voice broke the silence again, softer now, almost vulnerable. You're more than just a baker's girl, he said quietly. I see that. Emily's breath itched, her heart pounding wildly. And I know who you are, she whispered, eyes darting to his face. But I can't pretend I don't feel this, whatever this is. His gaze searched hers, then slowly, almost hesitantly, he reached out and gently brushed her cheek with his fingertips. The moment froze, only for a heartbeat, before he leaned in just a little closer. "No matter what they say," he whispered, "I won't let go of this. Of us." Their faces were inches apart now, the world outside fading into insignificance. She knew the danger, the whispers of enemies, the disapproval of her small town, the weight of his reputation. But in that instant, all of it seemed trivial compared to the undeniable truth. Love was breaking all the rules, and they couldn't resist the pull. Her eyes fluttered closed for a moment, as she felt his breath mingle with hers. And in that stolen glance, in that quiet, trembling touch, they both understood that nothing could keep them apart, not the fears, not the secrets, not the rules that tried to contain them. Because some loves are worth risking everything for. If you're captivated by their story or eager to see what unfolds, please leave a like, subscribe for more, and comment below where you're watching from. I love hearing from all of you. The peaceful hum of the bakery had been replaced by chaos. Emily had just finished serving the last piece of the cake when she saw him, the man who had become her obsession, Vincent Moretti, standing in the doorway, his face shadowed and tense. Before she could even breathe, the air shifted. Shots rang out, glass shattered, and the scent of gunpowder filled the room. It was an ambush. Betrayal had struck from within their fragile world, and in an instant, everything changed. Vincent's eyes widened as masked men stormed in, armed and ruthless. Emily dove behind the counter, her heart pounding wildly, realizing she'd been caught in a war she barely understood. Vincent's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and commanding. "Get her out of here!" he yelled, grabbing her by the arm and pulling her into a back room. The door slammed shut behind them, but Emily could hear the shouts and gunfire outside, the walls trembling with every blast. Her mind raced. Who had betrayed him? Who had sold them out? And how could she prove her loyalty now? Vincent's face was grim, eyes dark with pain and fury. "It's a trap," he muttered, voice strained. "They're after me, after us." Emily's voice trembled, but she forced herself to stay strong. "I'm not leaving you," she said fiercely. "Whatever it takes." Vincent looked at her then, torn between love and the harsh reality of his dangerous life. "You don't understand," he whispered. "If they find out what I'm willing to give up, my power, my empire, they'll destroy everything. Including you." Tears blurred her vision. "Then let me prove I'm willing to stand by you," she said, voice trembling but full of conviction. "If you're ready to risk everything, so am I. I won't run away. Not now." He hesitated, the weight of his world pressing down on him. He had fought for control, for dominance, for survival, yet in that moment, he wondered if love was worth surrendering it all. The room grew colder, the sounds of the attack still echoing outside. Vincent reached out, taking her hands in his. "You mean everything to me," he whispered. "But this isn't just about us anymore. It's about survival, about staying alive long enough to see if we can have a future. And I don't know if I can choose between my power and you." Emily's eyes burned with determination. "Then choose me," she said softly. "Because I believe in us. I believe in what we could be, beyond the danger, beyond the rules. I'm willing to fight for this, for you, even if it costs everything." Vincent's jaw tightened as he looked at her, so vulnerable yet so fierce. His world was crumbling around him, but her words ignited something he thought he'd lost: hope. Slowly, he pulled her close, pressing his forehead against hers. "If I give up my empire," he whispered, "it's not just for love. It's for a chance at something real." Outside, the gunfire intensified, chaos threatening to swallow them whole. But in that moment, in each other's arms, they found a fragile promise. The promise to fight, to stand, to love, no matter what dangers lurked in the shadows. Because sometimes, risking everything was the only way to truly live. The bakery was quiet again, the calm before the storm, but Emily knew better than to let her guard down. Outside, shadows moved in the darkness, enemies closing in. She clutched the last piece of the chocolate cake tightly, her heart pounding in her chest. Vincent's voice still echoed in her mind. "Save it for me." And now she understood what he meant. This wasn't just about a piece of cake. It was a symbol of their love, forbidden but unbreakable. She looked over her shoulder as the door burst open, revealing the men who had come to finish what they started, traitors, enemies of Vincent, armed and ruthless. Their leader, a man with a cold glare, stepped forward. "You thought you could hide, Vincent," he sneered. "Your reign ends tonight." Vincent appeared behind her, his jaw clenched, eyes blazing with fury and resolve. "Not without a fight," he said, voice low and dangerous. Emily saw the moment of hesitation in the traitor's eyes, the flicker of doubt, and in that instant, she knew what she had to do. Together they would fight, not just for their lives but for their forbidden love that defied all rules. Vincent reached for her hand, and she clasped it tightly. "We stand together," she whispered. "No matter what happens." The enemies advanced, guns drawn, but Vincent and Emily moved as one. Vincent drew his weapon, a silent promise of protection, while Emily grabbed a rolling pin, her unlikely weapon in this deadly showdown. The battle erupted in a blur of noise and chaos. Vincent's gunshot echoed, hitting its mark, but the traitor's men kept coming. Emily swung the rolling pin, deflecting a blow intended for Vincent. Her heart hammered in her chest, but she refused to back down. This was their fight, love against all odds. As bullets ricocheted and shouts filled the air, Vincent saw a traitor aiming a gun at Emily from behind. Without hesitation, he threw himself forward, taking the shot meant for her. Pain exploded through his side, and he staggered but refused to fall. "Vincent!" Emily cried, tears streaming down her face. She grabbed his hand, clutching it desperately. "You won't give up, do you hear me? We're not done yet." Vincent's eyes fluttered, a faint smile touching his lips despite the blood. "This love," he rasped, "is worth everything. I'd rather die than lose you." But Emily knew what she had to do, she couldn't let him sacrifice himself. With renewed fury, she fought off the remaining enemies, her determination fueling her strength. She tore a cloth from her apron to staunch Vincent's bleeding, her hands trembling but steady. "We're in this together," she whispered fiercely. "Love isn't about power or rules. It's about risking everything to be with the one you trust." The last of the enemies fell silent as reinforcements arrived, but Emily stayed close to Vincent, her hero, her love, knowing that their fight was only beginning. This night had proven one thing: their love was forbidden, but it was also unbreakable. They had fought side by side, risking everything to prove that some bonds could survive even the deadliest of storms. And as dawn approached, battered but unbowed, they knew they would face whatever came next, together, forever. The last piece of cake sat untouched on the plate, a symbol of the quiet moment Emily had been savoring amidst the chaos. The bakery's doors swung open again, and Vincent Moretti stepped inside, not with the menace of a mafia boss, but with a different look in his eyes. There was a softness, a vulnerability that hadn't been there before. As he approached, Emily's heart beat faster, knowing that what was coming next could change everything. Vincent reached out and gently took her hand, his voice low and steady. "Save it for me," he whispered, a promise and a plea rolled into one. That simple phrase carried more weight than words could express. It was a vow that, no matter how dangerous or dark his past had been, he was ready for a new beginning, one where love and hope mattered more than power or fear. Emily looked at him, a mix of love and hope swelling inside her. For so long, she had watched him from afar, captivated by his strength, haunted by the dangerous life he led. But now, standing close, she saw the man beneath, the one longing for redemption, for peace. She squeezed his hand, her voice trembling but firm. "We can build something new," she said softly. Together. Vincent's eyes searched hers, and for the first time, she saw the flicker of a man willing to leave behind his past, to embrace a future filled with possibility. It wasn't just about love anymore. It was about hope, about daring to believe that love could conquer the fear of the unknown, of risking everything for a second chance. As they faced each other, the world outside the bakery faded away. No longer did their lives have to be defined by violence or secrets. Together they would forge a path forward, hand in hand, leaving behind shadows and stepping into the light of a new beginning. Vincent's voice broke the silence again, more resolute than ever. "I've made mistakes," he admitted, "but I want to do better. For you, for us. I'm ready to turn the page." Emily nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. "Love gave me the strength to wait," she whispered. "And now, it gives me the courage to believe in us." With that, Vincent reached out and pulled her into a gentle embrace, sealing their vow with a quiet kiss. In that moment, they both knew their story wasn't over. It was only just beginning. Love had shown them that even in the face of danger and darkness, hope and new beginnings could bloom. Their hearts, once weighed down by fear, now beat with the promise of a brighter future, where love truly conquers all. As the sun rose outside, casting a warm glow into the bakery, Emily and Vincent stepped into the dawn, ready to face whatever the world had in store, together. Because sometimes, the greatest strength lies in choosing love over fear, and in daring to believe that a new life is always possible. If you enjoyed this story of hope and love conquering fear, please like this video, subscribe for more stories like this, and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what this story inspired in you.